Good day everyone, we are Group 3 and our topic is the endocrine system. But before we proceed with our discussion, meron muna akong tanong. And ang tanong ko is, na-experience nyo na bang matulog ng 8 hours or even more, pero pagising nyo parang pagod pa rin kayo? O kung bakit mabilis kayong magutom, uminit ang ulo, o antukin sa gitna ng klase? O kaya naman experience niyo na ba yung mga araw na ang saya mo today tapos kinabukasan parang wala ka ng energy? Well, this actually has something to do with our endocrine system na pag-uusapan natin ngayon. So let's now proceed to our learning objectives wherein at the end of this laboratory activity, students should be able to first identify the major endocrine glands and their hormones. Second, explain how hormones regulate behavior, emotion, and stress. Third is to describe the HPA axis or the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal connection. And lastly is to relate hormone imbalance to psychological symptoms. So now let's proceed sa definition ng endocrine system. So our endocrine system is a system of glands called endocrine glands that release chemical messenger molecules called hormones into the bloodstream. So actually yung endocrine system natin, they are made up of glands and organs that make hormones. So yung mga glands and organs na makikita natin sa endocrine natin are this sa picture, yung pineal gland, yung hypothalamus, pituitary gland, thyroid gland, thymus, pancreas, adrenal glands, kidneys, testes sa male and ovaries sa female. If you are wondering bakit kasama yung kidneys sa may endocrine natin, this is because they also produce hormones like yung erythropoietin na tumutulong sa pag-make or paggawa ng red blood cells. They also produce hormones like renin na nagre-regulate ng blood pressure and calcitriol, the active form of vitamin D that controls calcium levels. So, aside from filtering blood, the kidneys also release hormones that maintain body balance. Kaya siya part ng endocrine. If you also notice, yung testes ng male and ovaries ng female is part of our reproductive, diba? But they are also part of our endocrine system kasi meron silang hormone na sinisecrete or pinuproduce. Now, let's talk about the hormones. Ano nga ba yung hormones na kanina pa natin nababanggit? So, yung hormones, they are the body's chemical messengers. Hormones are special chemicals that help control and coordinate body activities. They are made in glands and travel through the bloodstream to target organs or tissues. So, each hormone has a specific job. For example, some help with growth, while others control sugar levels or emotions. Think of hormones like text messages sent from one part of the body to another telling it what to do. So, yung hormones natin, they are released by the endocrine system and they control many important functions in the body. Anong mga important functions na yon? Nabanggit dito sa example, yung growth, development, metabolism, and actually for reproduction. So, they are some of the functions of our hormones. So, we are here na sa part na babanggitin yung specific hormones na pinoproduce or sinisecrete ng specific endocrine glands. So, we have here the major endocrine glands and their hormones. So, yung major endocrine glands natin are the hypothalamus, pituitary gland, pineal gland, thyroid, adrenal gland, pancreas, ovary for females, and testes naman sa mga males. So, let's first talk about the hypothalamus. Yung hypothalamus, kinoconnect niya yung nervous system and endocrine system. It controls hormones from the central nervous system. So, yung hypothalamus natin, yung hormones niya are the growth hormone releasing hormone or the GHRH. it tells the pituitary to release growth hormone or the GH, which helps the body grow, repair tissues, and build muscles and bone. So, itong GHRH na ito, ang example niya is when you are a child or teenager, yung GHRH levels natin, they rise. So, yung pituitary, nagre-release siya ng more GH or growth hormone that helps a child or a teenager grow taller. Sa may thyrotropin releasing hormones naman or the TRH, they stimulate the release of thyroid stimulating hormones or the TSH na wherein it tells the thyroid gland to release thyroid hormones which controls metabolism and energy. Ang example dito is when our body needs more energy, like in cold weather, yung TRH natin makes sure that the thyroid speed things up. Next is the gonadotropin releasing hormone or the GnRH. This stimulates release of LH or the luteinizing hormone and the FSH or the follicle stimulating hormone. So these hormones control reproductive functions, the sperm and egg production, and sexual development. For example, during puberty, yung hypothalamus natin releases more GnRH to start changes in the reproductive organs. And lastly, yung corticotropin releasing hormones or the CRH. The CRH triggers release of ACTH or the adrenocorticotropic hormones na itong ACTH na ito, it tells the adrenal glands to produce cortisol, the stress hormone, na tumutulong para ma-handle ng body natin yung pressure and maintain energy. So, for example, we are stressed, yung CRH and ACTH levels natin nagra-rise. So, cortisol can help our body stay alert and ready. So, next is the pineal gland, which is a tiny P-shaped gland located in the brain. So, despite its small size, meron siya actually important function or job na ginagawa, and that is controlling our sleep-wake cycle. So, it does this by producing melatonin, which is often called the sleep hormone. So, since melatonin is a sleep hormone, nare-release siya mostly sa gabi para tulungan tayong matulog. So, anong nangyayari sa melatonin natin during daytime or kapag umaga? Yung melatonin production natin nagdi-decrease. So, kapag nagdi-decrease, ang mangyayari is mafe-feel natin na gising yung katawan natin and at the same time, alert din. So, in other words, parang yung pineal gland natin, siya yung body's natural clock kasi hini-help niya tayo na ma-maintain yung regular sleep patterns and at the same time para ma-feel or stay energized during the day. So, for example, kapag gabi, nagpuyat tayo kaka-scroll, mapapansin natin na nahihirapan tayong matulog. This is because of the blue light. Yung blue light na yon, dinidecrease niya yung melatonin production, di ba? Dinidecrease or nire-reduce niya yung melatonin production. So, basically, yung effect niya is parang daytime din. Ang nangyayari, nako-confuse yung pineal gland natin, kaya nahihirapan tayong matulog. Next is our pancreas, which is a long flat gland located behind the stomach. Ang role niya is to keep our blood sugar levels balanced, which is important siya for maintaining our body's energy. So, it produces two opposite pero equally important hormones, which are the insulin and glucagon. So, ano yung difference nila? Kapag sinabi nating insulin, tumutulong siya na mapababa yung blood sugar levels natin pagkatapos kumain. So, kapag nag-consume tayo ng food full of carbs or matamis, yung blood sugar natin, of course, tumataas siya. Ngayon, dito na papasok yung pancreas and yung hormone na insulin. Yung pancreas, magre-release siya ngayon ng insulin para tulungan na i-move yung glucose or yung sugar sa blood natin into our body cells or body's cells para gamitin for energy or store siya for later use. Kapag naman sinabi nating glucagon, it does the opposite. Meaning, kapag yung insulin tumutulong siya para mapababa yung blood sugar levels natin, yung glucagon naman, tumutulong siya para mapataas yung blood sugar levels natin. So, kailan ito nangyayari? Nangyayari siya kapag, of course, nag-drop yung blood sugar levels natin. Kasi, for example, nag-skip tayo ng breakfast, ngayon, yung pancreas natin, doon na siya mag-release ng glucagon, na kung saan, yung glucagon na yon it signals the liver to release stored sugar back into our bloodstream para mabalik yung blood sugar level natin sa normal. So, they basically work together to make sure na yung body natin meron siya palaging right amount ng sugar, which is not too high but at the same time not too low. Adrenal glands are small triangular shaped glands located right on top of our kidneys, one on each side. Even though they are small, they are powerful because they help our body respond to stress and maintain balance. So, they produce several hormones, pero two important ones are aldosterone and corticosteroids. So, sa may aldosterone, tumutulong siyang mag-regulate ng salt, water balance, and blood pressure. It tells our kidneys how much sodium and water to keep or release. So, when our body holds onto more salt and water, our blood pressure goes up. When it releases them, blood pressure goes down. So, aldosterone keeps our body fluids and blood pressure is stable. Sa may corticosteroids naman, meron siyang multiple important roles. They help control inflammation, maintain blood sugar levels, regulate blood pressure, and support muscle growth. Corticosteroids also help our body stay balanced during stress, such as when we are sick or tired. So, for example, when we are feeling stressed before an exam or performance, our adrenal glands release corticosteroids to give us the energy and focus to handle it. So, it's like our body's natural stress armor or the body's emergency responders, helping us to stay steady, strong, and balanced even when life gets tough. So the other or the remaining hormones of the adrenal glands are the epinephrine and norepinephrine. Yung epinephrine, it increases heart rate, oxygen intake, and blood flow. Yung norepinephrine naman, it maintains blood pressure. Our pituitary gland, which is often called the master gland of the endocrine system, is a small pea-sized gland located at the base of the brain just below the hypothalamus. So, even though it's tiny, yung pituitary gland natin nagpo-produce yan ng several important hormones that affect growth, reproduction, metabolism, and water balance. So, here are the hormones of our pituitary gland. First is the antidiuretic hormone or the ADH or vasopressin. It helps the kidneys retain water, preventing dehydration. It also helps control blood pressure by adjusting how much water the body keeps or releases. Next is the adrenocorticotropic hormone or the ACTH. It stimulates the adrenal glands to release hormones like cortisol. These hormones help manage stress, maintain energy, and support metabolism. Yung growth hormone naman natin or the GH, it helps us grow taller, build muscle, and repair tissues. So may luteinizing hormone LH and follicle stimulating hormone FSH. They control reproductive functions like egg and sperm production. Sa may oxytocin, it triggers labor contractions and help with milk release during breastfeeding. Yung prolactin naman, tinutulungan niya yung mothers na mag-produce ng milk after giving birth. The ovaries are two small, oval-shaped glands located on each side of the uterus in females. So they are part of both the reproductive system and the endocrine system since they produce important hormones that affect growth, development, and reproduction. So the two main hormones produced by the ovaries are the estrogen and progesterone. So kapag sinabing estrogen, responsible siya for the development of female sexual characteristics such as breast growth, wider hips, and body shape during puberty. It also supports the reproductive organs, especially the uterus and breasts, helping them function properly. So beyond reproduction, estrogen also protects bone health and helps maintain healthy skin and mood balance. Sa progesterone naman, it works closely with estrogen to regulate the menstrual cycle. It prepares the lining of the uterus, the endometrium, for a fertilized egg, making pregnancy possible. And progesterone also prepares the breasts for milk production in case pregnancy occurs. So, for example, kapag na-notice natin na nagbabago na yung mood natin or nagkakaroon tayo ng mood changes, cramps, or physical changes during our menstrual cycle, that's our ovaries adjusting the levels of estrogen and progesterone throughout the month. So, yung ovaries natin, they are essential not just for reproduction, but also for keeping a woman's body balance strong and ready for life's natural cycle. Lastly are the testes or testicles of male reproductive glands located in the scrotum. They are part of both the reproductive system and the endocrine system because again, they produce hormones, with the main one being testosterone. So yung testosterone, it is responsible for the development and maintenance of male sexual characteristic such as yung deepening of the voice during the puberty, growth of facial and body hair, development of the male reproductive organs, and the muscle growth and bone strength. It also plays a role sa may sexual maturation and maintaining fertility by supporting sperm production. So, for example, during puberty, the increase in testosterone is why boys experience rapid growth, voice changes, and other physical changes that define male development.
Okay, next we're gonna talk about the effect of various hormones on human behavior. Our hormones are the tiny chemicals messenger that plays a big part in shaping how we think, feel, and act. So each one affects our body differently. Some control stress, others influence our mood, and some even affect how we connect with people. So let's start with adrenaline. Adrenaline is also known as the fight or flight hormone, so it helps us react quickly in stressful or emergency situations. So, for example, when your teacher suddenly calls you to recite, you might feel your heart race and your heart start to swell. It's your adrenaline kicking in, which gives your body a quick burst of energy and sharpens your focus so you can respond fast. But if your body keeps releasing adrenaline too often, like when you're constantly anxious or overthinking, it can make you feel tired, restless, or even overwhelmed. So adrenaline is good for short-term stress, but harmful when it's always active. Okay, so next we're gonna talk about the ACTH or the adrenocorticotropic hormone. So this hormone is part of your body's stress system. So it is released by the pituitary gland whenever you face a challenge or a stressful situation. So its job is to send signal to the adrenal glands to release cortisol. So as we all know, cortisol is the main stress hormone. So it helps your body stay alert and gives you energy to handle tough situations. So just like adrenaline, too much adrenocorticotropic hormone or cortisol can lead to burnout, fatigue, or anxiety. That's why learning to manage stress through exercise, rest, or relaxation is really important for your hormonal balance. Next, we're gonna talk about the dopamine. So dopamine is often called the feel-good hormone. So this one's all about motivation and pleasure. So every time you finish a task, listen to a music you love, or achieve a goal, your brain releases dopamine. It is what drives us to keep going. But when dopamine is too low, you might lose interest in the things you usually enjoy or feel unmotivated. On the other side, too much stimulation of dopamine, like through addiction or social media, can make it harder for your brain to feel rewarded naturally. So balance is the key for staying motivated and emotionally stable. Now we have luteinizing hormone, or LH. So you probably hear about this one more in reproductive health, but it actually affects mood and energy levels too. When luteinizing hormone levels are off balance, you might experience mood swings, irritability, or a sudden drop in motivation. It just shows how interconnected our reproductive hormones are with our emotions and behavior. So it shows that our body and mind always work together. So next is we have testosterone, or estradiol. So this is the main sex hormones in both men and women. So these hormones helps regulate mood, confidence, and social behavior. For instance, balanced testosterone can boost motivation and energy, while balanced estradiol helps with emotional sensitivity and empathy. When these hormones become unbalanced, like during puberty, stress, or hormonal changes, it can lead to irritability, emotional ups and downs, or changes in confidence. So if someone's acting a bit different emotionally, sometimes it's not just attitude, it might be their hormones at work. Now let's move on to oxytocin. Oxytocin is often called the love hormone or bonding hormone. So this one is all about connection. So it is released when we show affection, like hugging someone, spending time with friends, or even petting an animal. So oxytocin makes us feel safe, trusting, and emotionally close to others. It is also released during childbirth and breastfeeding to strengthen the bond between mother and the baby. So basically, oxytocin reminds us that we're social beings and that kindness, love, and connection literally change our brain chemistry for the better. Lastly, we have thyroxine. So thyroxine comes from the thyroid glands in the neck. So it controls how fast or slow our body uses energy. This is what we call metabolism. So when thyroxine levels are too low, everything in the body slows down. Like you feel tired, sluggish, forgetful, or you may gain weight easily. When levels are too high, everything speeds up, like your heart races, you feel restless, and you might have troubles focusing or sleeping. So the thyroid hormones are not just for physical health but also for mental and emotional balance. Alright, now let's move on to another important part of our discussion, which is the HPA axis, which stands for hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. So this system is like our body's built-in stress management network. So it plays a critical role in regulating stress responses, mood, digestion, immune functions, and energy storage. Also, the expenditure in the body. So, the pathway of the axis results in the production of cortisol. So, whenever we experience or feel something stressful, whether it's physical, emotional, or even mental, these three parts work together to help us handle it. So, let's start with the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is found in the brain, so you can think of it as the control center that detects when something stressful is happening. For example, let's say you're about to take an exam, or you suddenly hear a bad, or you suddenly hear bad news. So the hypothalamus is the first part that reacts. It immediately sends a chemical signal that is called the CRH, or the corticotropin releasing hormone, to the pituitary gland. So this signal basically tells the pituitary, hey, we're under stress. Let's prepare the body to respond. So next is the pituitary gland. So pituitary gland just sits below the brain, so it receives that signal and releases ACTH, or the adrenocorticotropic hormone, into the bloodstream. So ACTH acts like a messenger, so it travels through the blood all the way down to the adrenal glands, which sits on top of your kidneys. So now the adrenal glands will take over. So uh, adrenal glands will release cortisol, which is your body's main stress hormone. So cortisol's job is to give you energy, keep you alert, and help your body deal with the stressor. So that's why when you're stressed, you might feel your heart beat faster, or your body becoming more alert. So it's just your system doing its job to help you cope. The only problem starts when your system stays turned on for too long. So when we're constantly stressed from deadlines, family issues, or emotional strain, cortisol levels remain high, and the HPA axis doesn't get a chance to rest. So over time, this can cause several problems, such as fatigue, or you always feel tired, anxiety, mood swings, difficulty concentrating, weakened immune system, and even trouble sleeping. So instead of helping us, the stress hormone starts harming us. That's why we shouldn't let the HPA axis become overactive.
Now, let's move on to the next slide. What is the difference between the endocrine and nervous systems? The nervous and endocrine systems both regulate body functions, but they differ in speed and duration of their effects. The nervous system uses electrical impulses and neurotransmitters to produce rapid, short lived responses, such as pulling your hand from a hot object. In contrast, the endocrine system releases hormones into the bloodstream, causing slower but longer lasting effects like growth regulation by pituitary hormones. So dito, sinasabi na parehong nagre-regulate ng body functions ang nervous at endocrine systems, pero magkaiba sila sa bilis at tagal ng epekto. Ang nervous system ay mabilis kumilos. Ito yung nagpapadala ng electrical signals para makareact agad ang katawan natin, tulad ng pag-alis ng kamay kapag napapaso tayo. Samantalang ang endocrine system naman, mas mabagal pero mas matagal ang epekto dahil hormones ang ginagamit nito para kontrolin ang mga prosesong gaya ng paglaki natin. Next slide. What happens to cortisol levels during chronic stress? During chronic stress, cortisol levels remain elevated because the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis is continuously activated. Prolonged high cortisol can disrupt immune function, increase inflammation, and affect pain sensitivity. Over time, this sustained elevation may contribute to chronic health issues such as neurodegenerative or psychological disorders. Kapag matagal tayong stressed, tuloy-tuloy ang pagtaas ng cortisol natin na tinatawag ding stress hormone. Dahil dito, humihina ang immune system at tumataas ang inflammation at nagiging mas sensitibo tayo sa sakit. Kung matagal itong nangyayari, pwedeng magdulot ng masakit sa utak o mental health problems tulad ng anxiety o depression. Next, why is the pituitary gland called the master gland? The pituitary gland is called the master gland as the hormones it produced control so many different processes in the body. It senses the body's need and sends signals to different organs and glands throughout the body to regulate their function and maintain an appropriate environment. It secretes a variety of hormones into the bloodstream, which act as messenger to transmit information from the pituitary gland to distant cells, regulating their activity. Tinatawag itong master gland kasi siya ang nagkokontrol sa iba't ibang glands sa katawan. Kapag may kailangan ng katawan, ang pituitary gland ang nagpapadala ng signal o hormones para sabihing gumana ka na or tumigil ka muna. Kaya ito mahalaga sa pag-maintain ng balance o tinatawag na homeostasis sa katawan.
Are we responsible for behaviors that are hormonally driven? Hormones influence the likelihood of certain behaviors, but do not deterministically cause them, meaning individuals can still exercise responsibly. They interact with neural, physiological, and environmental factors to modulate behaviors such as aggression, sexual activity, or parental care. But context and personal choices determine whether these behaviors are expressed. Therefore, even though hormones shape motivations and capabilities, humans remain responsible for how they act. Next is let's discuss how biological and physiological perspectives can complement each other in explaining stress. The biological perspective emphasizes that stress triggers physiological systems such as the brain, nervous, endocrine, and immune systems, which react to threats and regulate behavior from a biological base. The physiological perspective complements this by focusing on how an individual interprets a stressful situation, uses coping strategies, and emotionally responds. Together, these views create a fuller explanation of stress by showing how bodily reactions and mental appraisal interact. So, ang halimbawa po dito is kapag may exam, nararamdaman mo ang stress sa katawan mo. Pero kung paano mo ito harapin ay depende sa kung paano mo ito i-interpret at kung ano ang mga coping strategies na gagawin mo. Next is hormonal imbalances. Hormonal imbalances happen when your body's chemical hormones gets mixed up. These messengers control things like growth, mood, and more. When they're not at the right levels, it can cause various health problems. It can be due to stress, aging, or other reasons. Fixing these imbalances is important for staying healthy. So, ang hormonal imbalance ay kapag hindi balanse ang mga hormones sa ating katawan na pwedeng magdulot ng sakit at problema sa kalusugan. So, halimbawa dito is kapag kulang ang thyroid hormone sa katawan, pwedeng magdulot ito ng pagod at pagtaas ng timbang. So, kailangan natin itong mabalanse para gumaling yung katawan natin.
We have symptoms of hormonal imbalances. Hormones are chemical messengers that control many important functions in our body, such as growth, metabolism, mood, and reproduction. When these hormones become imbalanced, either too much or too little, it can cause various physical, mental, and emotional changes. This condition is called hormonal imbalance. Some common symptoms of hormonal imbalance include period problems. For girls and women, your monthly period may not come when it should, or it could be really heavy. So for women, the menstrual cycle may come late, not at all, or be unusually heavy. Spots on your skin. You might get more pimples or spots on your face or body. So hormonal changes can cause pimples or acne, especially if there's an increase in androgen levels. Next, we have hair in odd places. You could grow extra hair in places where you don't want it, like your face, chest, or back. Excess hair may grow on areas like the face, chest, or back due to higher levels of testosterone. Feeling tired. You might feel very tired or lack energy even after a good night's sleep. Even after a full night's sleep, a person may still feel weak or drained because of low thyroid or adrenal hormones. Mood changes. Your feelings can change a lot. You might feel sad, angry, or anxious more often. So hormones affect emotions. So imbalance can lead to irritability, sadness, or anxiety. Next, we have body changes. You could gain or lose weight without trying. So sudden weight gain or lose without effort may happen due to changes in metabolism. Feeling too cold or hot. You might have moments where you feel too hot, like you're sweating a lot, or too cold, shivering. So being overly sensitive to temperature can also be a sign, often linked to thyroid problems. Mara is a 20-year-old psychology major. Lately, she has felt sluggish, forgetful, and unmotivated. Despite sleeping 8 hours, she wakes up tired and finds it hard to concentrate in class. Her weight has increased slightly, and she often feels cold even in warm weather. So this case indicates hypothyroidism, where the thyroid gland produces insufficient thyroid hormones, which is the T3 and T4. As a result, metabolism slows down, causing symptoms like fatigue, weight gain, feeling cold, and difficulty concentrating. So in other words, Mara's body is not producing enough hormones to keep her metabolism active, which explains why she feels tired, heavy, and mentally slow. Next, we have Ken. Ken feels extremely nervous before any presentation. His heart races, his palms sweat, and he feels shaky. Even minor stressors triggers this response. Afterward, he feels drained but can't sleep well at night. Ken's symptoms show an overactive sympathetic nervous system, causing excessive release of adrenaline and noradrenaline. This leads to a rapid heartbeat, sweating, and shakiness, followed by exhaustion and trouble sleeping once the adrenaline surface fades. So, in Ken's situation, this shows how excessive stress hormone activity can disrupt both physical and emotional balance.
Now, we're going to talk about Lisa. Lisa juggles part-time work and school. She drinks a lot of coffee to stay awake, often skip meals, and rarely rests. At first, she felt productive and energetic, but now she felt anxious, irritable, and can't focus. She cries easily and experiences sudden mood swings. And that's because Lisa experienced points of chronic stress affecting her adrenal glands and cortisol regulation. Continuous stress can cause anxiety, irritability, and fatigue, and even when consuming stimulants like coffee. Next is Paulo. Paulo stays up late scrolling on his phone. He often wakes up groggy, even after a long sleep, and feels more alert only after lunch. He says he's not a morning person and struggles to follow regular routines, and that's because Paolo's situation involves a disrupted circadian rhythm due to reduced melatonin production from late night screen exposure. This interference with sleep hormones causes insomnia, morning grogginess, and delayed alertness during the day. And lastly, Anna is training intensively for a sports competition. Recently, she's been unusually short tempered, competitive, and aggressive. She also reports decreased empathy and impatience with her teammates. And that's because Anna's increased aggression and impatience suggest a rise in androgen levels, such as testosterone, caused by intense training. While this can boost competitiveness, too much can lead to irritability and strain on personal relationships. And here are the references we use for this report. Thank you for listening.